works better. Good morning. Good morning, friends. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm the Reverend Sara LaWall. It is my great honor to serve this beloved community. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking religious community with one great aim: to grow in love. Love for neighbor, love for our planet, and love for ourselves. I'm joined this morning by Patricia Heeb, who is serving as our celebrant, Carrie Bastian, our music director, and we have a special liturgical dance this morning from Diane Dorius. Thank you, Diane. It's going to be a beautiful day. If you were with us last week, you know that we're experimenting a little, changing things up with our order of service, which means we're no longer doing spoken announcements from the pulpit. I know you're so disappointed about that. So I just want to remind you about all of the ways that you can stay connected to all of the amazing things that are happening here at this fellowship. We will continue our announcement slides before and after the service, and also during the offertory. So an intentional moment where you can receive and write things down. Of course, all of these events are sent to you weekly in our Wednesday Gazette via email. So if you haven't signed up for that or aren't getting that, please see Nancy in our office and she'll be happy to help you figure that out. Everything is there. And most of the time, things are on the website, but I know that our website's been having some challenges lately. So perhaps you've logged in and tried to find something and you've been thwarted from that attempt, and we're working on it. And of course, you can always use a good old-fashioned telephone and call Nancy, and she will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about anything that is happening here in this fellowship. Yes, thank you, Nancy. In this new order of liturgy, we're calling this time together our gathering and centering time. So let's take a moment to welcome our online community on Zoom. Give a wave. Thank you all for being there with us online. Look around the room. Give a wave to a friend or a newcomer across the room. Make some eye contact. Remind yourself to go say hello to them after the service. Zoom friends, you are here on our screens, and we would love to see your faces, so if you can turn on your cameras for a moment, we want to just recognize you. Bonnie, it's great to see you. Linda, Helen, Jane, and Tony, and Anne-Marie, everybody's looking so fabulous. Welcome, Lisa. There's so many of you. Oh my gosh. That's what you do on Time Change Sunday. You all, extra points. That one surprised me today, which is unusual. A special welcome to all of our newcomers. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, or you're still checking us out and you feel new, we know that it takes a lot of courage to join a new community, to move inside a new threshold, and we're so glad that you've chosen us this morning. We hope that you will stay after the service and introduce yourselves to us during our hospitality time. If you're on Zoom and you're a newcomer, you can introduce yourselves to us in the chat anytime. We have newcomer forms we'd love to have you fill out so that we can sign you up for that Wednesday Gazette, and you can keep in touch with all that is happening and begin to participate and engage with all of the cool events and groups we have here at this congregation. And we have our Inquirer session for newcomers today. We get to join together in a Q&A with me. This is my favorite session. And we'll be together down at the end of the North Wing there shortly after the service. Grab some coffee and we can gather down there together. I look forward to chatting with all of you newcomers. Each week we begin our worship service, centering ourselves by lighting our flaming chalice, the symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We invite a child to light the chalice to remind us of the hope for the future that we build together. As Louis Lawson joins me up here to light our chalice in the sanctuary, I invite those of you joining us online to light a chalice or a candle nearby if you have one, and then feel free to share in the chat where it is you have lit your chalice this morning. Louis is an expert chalice lighter now. Thank you, Louis. Well done. Our service today is focused on our bodies and the wisdom they hold about the world, how they help us connect to our true selves, to each other, to the holy. And one of the wonderful ways that we can tune in and connect with our bodies is by singing. When we sing collectively as a group, we sync our heart rates up together, we breathe together, and with those around us, and we allow ourselves to become more open, more expansive, more receptive. So I invite you to join us in singing our gathering hymns this morning. We have some song leaders for our hymns this morning. We're going to begin with Gathered Here, so I'll invite you to rise and bow to your spirit as you are able. We'll sing Gathered Here all the way through one time together, and then we'll break up in a round, and you can follow your round leader in front of your section. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we start that round, we'll go through it all the way through twice together. So let's sing. Here we go. Give me chills. That was beautiful. Wow, thank you. Wait, don't sit down. We're going to do one more song, the meditation on breathing. It's been a while since we've sung this together. This is a meditative song. So we're going to learn all 3 parts together, and then you'll have some song leaders to follow, and you can choose your own adventure. So we'll start by learning the drone part, the words on the very bottom. Let's learn that all together. You love that part? Now let's do the melody. Elizabeth is our song leader here for the melody. 1, 2, 3. Sounds so good. That's beautiful. Thank you. Now we're going to learn the descant. This is the lilting high part, if those of you who like to float in your head voice. you'll follow Kristen and Cambria.
1, 2, 3, 4. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
All right, now we're going to put it all together. And this really is a choose your own adventure. So if you like that deep, low, simple drone, just raise your hand. You'll follow Jess over here. If you're drawn to the melody, you'll follow Elizabeth right here in the middle. And if you like that lilting high part, you'll follow Cambria and Kristen over here on this side. And this is a meditation. So I invite you to just sink into your body and let yourself get carried by the music. And if you get lost, just find your way back or choose a new part or just be quiet for a moment, whatever works for you. And we're gonna sing it until it's time to be done. And I'll cue you by just putting one finger in the air so that you know it's the last time through. But if you close your eyes, then just listen. The music will slow down and we'll know it's time to be done. So let's sing this meditation on breathing together. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you.
As we gather together, we acknowledge that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land stolen from the people of the Shoshone Bannock, the Shoshone Paiute, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai, and Nez Perce nations, along with many other tribes whose names have been lost in history. We acknowledge that our presence here today is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples. With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our ongoing commitment to the work of dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
Our spiritual theme for this month of March is incarnation, the practice of wearing skin. All month, we'll be exploring how we show up in these skin-covered bodies, with all the joys and the challenges and the beauty and the wildness of what it means to live in this human body. And today we're tuning in to how our bodies store trauma and also how they teach us about connection. Connection to our own hearts, connection to others, and connection to the divine. And as this month ends with Transgender Day of Visibility on the 31st, Easter Sunday, the day of resurrection and incarnation, we'll be paying special attention to how the vast spectrum of beautiful diversity shows up in our midst, all the ways our beloveds inhabit these human bodies and express ourselves and identities through our bodies, even if sometimes we don't quite understand and are still trying to figure it all out. So as we enter into this time of worship together, we've entered in with that beautiful music. I want to invite us into some more breathing together. Our breath being that beautiful way that we can immediately click in to our bodies and tune in. I invite you to take some deep breaths. With each inhale, we invite the wisdom of our bodies, the unspoken knowledge held within every cell and fiber of our being. With each exhale, we release all the barriers that distance us from that source of life, from the divine spark that resides around us and within us. Hear these words to your own body. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning, thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
Thank you, Diane, for that beautiful expression of how the body can speak without a word. Our call to worship this morning is from the renowned 13th century Sufi mystic Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some monetary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Come, let us worship together.
Thought maybe that the Rumi poem would be a little obvious, but wow, it really speaks to our theme today. This is the time of the service we're calling Beloved Community Time, the space when we celebrate our commitments to being a multi-generational community, a community of generosity, and a community of care and connection. And each week, we engage in that caring connection in all kinds of different ways, and we embody it together by receiving and carrying the joys and sorrows of this community in our hearts, spoken out loud, typed in the chat. That is how we express our care and love for one another. And it is through our sharing with one another that we strengthen and forge those deep bonds of connection. We begin by sharing these joys and sorrows with you. We continue to hold Eileen Oldag in our hearts as she continues her good but long recovery at home. We hold Toni Corley, who has been hospitalized recently, is doing okay, but we want to send her some love and care. We continue our love and care to Pat Edmondson, whose husband had a fall last week, and then Pat got COVID. Sorry, Pat. We're holding you in our hearts. We hold Sue Chu, who is moved out of rehab. Her meal train continues, and we celebrate her gift to this community as she was awarded a very special award last night at the Franken Bethine Church Democratic Gala. And we hold Michael Barker and family as Michael gets ready to begin his CAR-T therapy. And Diane Schwabe, whose brother Kurt Levitt died on Thursday in St. Paul. Diane had the gift of being able to be with Kurt until the very end. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to call their name aloud or share it in the chat that we might hold them with you. May the arms of this community hold all of our joys and sorrows, those shared aloud and those that remain silent and close to our hearts. May we feel the grace in the room that surrounds us and be transformed by the spirit of life and love with a warmth to celebrate our joys and a gentleness to soothe our aching hearts. Breathe with me. Breathe in those joys and sorrows. Hold them in your heart. And breathe out the love and care and peace to the beloveds of this community and yourself. Breathe, filled with loving kindness. Breathe with wholeheartedness. Listen to what is calling you in the silence. Blessed be.
Each week, we take up the spiritual practice of generosity. We give to support the ministries of this congregation and the ministries of our plate partner, this month, Boise Trans Collective, offering mutual aid and community to our young trans community. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in justice, human rights, and dignity for all persons. We give as an expression of our commitment to living out our faith in the world. We give with the faith that together we have enough. I invite the what do we call them, ushers, to come forward. Our offering will be gratefully received.
I invite our ushers to bring our offering forward and invite all of you to join together in our collective blessing of our offering gifts. We bless these gifts, freely given and freely received. May they help us live out our Unitarian Universalist values within and beyond our walls. Thank you. And I would like to invite our young people to come down and join me down front here for our time for all ages. the reptile and us humans are growing, right? Part of it is about growth. Growth of our bodies, but also kind of growth of our hearts, our spirits, our insides, ourselves, and how free it must feel to just shed all that skin and emerge again. And we don't get to really see ours, so it's hard to tune into that freedom. But we're talking about our bodies today and how we can tune into our bodies to kind of channel and experience some freedom, and how we can help ourselves when we're in times of when we're in hard times of stress or anger or frustration. Do you ever feel any of those feelings? Anger, frustration, yeah, sadness, maybe. And what happens? Show me with your bodies what happens when you're feeling those feelings. Anger, sadness, frustration. What does your body look like? Does it kind of hunched over? Does it feel tight inside? So I want us to engage together in a community practice that has the fancy name emotional freedom technique, but I just like the word freedom. This is a way that we can help loosen up our bodies out of that tenseness or that really difficult sadness that's inside ourselves, and kind of reconnect with ourselves and breathe and find some freedom. How many of you have ever done tapping? It's really cool. So here's a slide up here. And so sometimes when you're having a hard time, or when you're having a hard time expressing yourself, sometimes just tapping on certain parts of your body can kind of help loosen things up. So let's try it together, because all you need are your fingers and your head and your body. And you can start, these are all the different points, and you don't have to start anywhere in particular, but you can start, if you want to, on the top of your head, and just tap. You can hand back and forth, you can tap with your fingers. Try over your eyebrows. And you know, in your temples, you don't have to tap real hard, but if you do it kind of fast, it feels kind of good. You can go under your eyes even. That feels really nice, especially when you're sleep deprived. I can't see the rest. On our collarbones. Yeah, right in there. And really the secret to tapping is find where it feels good in your own body and just stay there for a while. And if it feels really nice and you can kind of feel like a little loosening up, keep going with that. You can tap on the sides of your fingers. Isn't that interesting? On the sides of your hands and your fingers. You can tap into your arms, but I don't know. That's hard. I'm wearing too many clothes to get there today. Too many layers. How's that feel? Are you feeling a little? Is there a space in your body where you really start to feel like yourself open up a little bit? You feel a little like brighter? Sometimes the back of your neck is really in the back of your head. You know that bone right there in the back of your head? That's really good too. And sometimes when you're feeling really frustrated and you're tapping, you can talk about your feelings and do the tapping at the same time. The most terrible thing happened to me at school yesterday. And I was really mad at my friend. And if you do it while you tap, you can watch your body doesn't go into that really tight state. And can help you release some tension. And there's one more exercise that I want to teach that we can do to release some tension. But this one we might have to do like in our own spaces, because it takes some space and it's kind of a little silly. But I'm going to invite you all, and those of you in your seats, you're going to just have to do the modified version in your seat. I mean, if you're really ambitious and you want to get up and go find some space around the room, feel free. But it takes a little more space. But I'll invite our young friends to help demonstrate together. Several of us learned this. We were in a workshop together about personality types this weekend, about the Enneagram, and we learned this cool technique. And we used it in our workshop when there was so much information coming at us about our personalities, and when that happens, sometimes you feel a little embarrassed, and you get that like, I didn't really want to know this about myself. I didn't want other people to know this about myself. So we learned this technique to just kind of loosen our bodies up and free ourselves. It's called the whoosh technique. It's really easy. You're going to start with your hands up in the air, 3 big breaths, and you're going to come down, you're going to go whoosh. Really big, really loud. One more. Whoosh. Okay, one more. Whoosh. Oh, I flipped my stool right up. Whoosh. I feel good though. How do you feel? Do you feel a difference? How'd that feel? How'd that feel? It gets us out of our static selves, and now you get to take that energy with you and go off to your religious exploration classes. But let's sing our community blessing together. Singing together. Channel that energy with singing.
Writer Joyce Sutphen offers these observations about, quote, the practice of living in a skin, living in the body. Body is something you need in order to stay on this planet. And you only get one. And no matter which one you get, it will not be satisfactory.
What?
It will not be beautiful enough. It will not be fast enough. It will not keep going for days at a time, but will pull you down into a sleepy swamp and demand coffee and chocolate cake. Body is a thing you carry from one day to the next, and always the same eyebrows over the same eyes in the same skin when you look in the mirror, and the same creaky knees when you get up from the floor. The changes you can make are small and costly. Better leave it as it is. So there's a light and fun reflection about many of us can relate to about living in a body. But what if you find yourselves living in a compromised body? As my friend Deborah did after she contracted the West Nile virus. She had previously been taught to live under the injunctions to work hard, be successful, be the best. Things not possible with the West Nile impairments. She had to figure out how to make a life meaningful in a body that could not function in the ordinary way, to find what was truly important, and to create a life that, as she said, was in harmony with the essence of who I am. She found the learning process was a true gift as she touched into her spiritual center. Today, she lives in her compromised body, connected with the rhythm of the earth. She finds joy in the small moments, a pretty rock, geese squawking overhead, the clouds, snowflakes. May that be so for us all. And now a little public service announcement that I'm going to squeak in here. My own experience with the growing integration of body and spirit has come through attending a lifetime of retreats. Ollie Newman and I are offering a retreat in May that will help perhaps open up that connection in your attendance. We invite you to join us, talk to us after the service, or keep track of what's going on with it in the Gazette. Thank you.
We're going to sing together one more time after that beautiful reflection. Again, tuning in to our bodies. You're invited to remain seated for this one. Sing for yourself, comfort me. Beautiful. Impromptu liturgical dance. Anytime, friends, the space is yours. Sometime last fall, I was at St. Luke's Hospital downtown making a pastoral care visit. I don't even remember who I was visiting, so don't go wondering if it was you. I know the hospital well now from both visiting congregants and, unfortunately, from my own hospital journey with cancer and multiple surgeries in a very short period of time. And I made a stop down at the ground level. If you've been to St. Luke's, I was wanting to go get a soda from the cafeteria, and I passed the corridor that had the outpatient imaging waiting room and the MRI corridor, and the MRI room across the corridor. I hadn't been down to this part of the hospital since I'd had my own several MRIs, and I'd forgotten this space was even located in the same corridor as the cafeteria. And as I approached the space and started walking by the waiting room on one side and the MRI bay on the other, this wave of panic just rose up and swept over me out of nowhere. My heart rate spiked and my breathing became a little shallow and rapid and my chest tightened up, and I could just feel that panic rising up the back of my throat. And then, and I didn't really understand what was happening, I could feel it, this brief, fleeting thought just wafted through my mind. Oh, hey, this is where my MRI was, and God, that day sucked. And it really wasn't until the whole sensation passed, when I was enjoying my Diet Coke, sitting down in the cafeteria, that I put it all together, that was a traumatic stress response based on my past experience in that space. After my official cancer diagnosis, I'd had to have several MRIs with contrast, and I've always had very fussy veins, and rarely has anyone ever been able to place an IV easily and correctly the first time. Way back when I had my knee surgery, just ACL surgery, it took the nurse 4 times to get the IV, yes. This time, the MRI IV was so painfully placed after multiple tries that despite my pleas, when the technician flushed it with saline, I crawled out of the chair. And in this very automatic response to the pain, and that reaction was met with, well, you can't move like that in the machine. And through my tears, I managed to get him to try again on the other arm, and it still took a couple of tries. And so combined with the anxiety and stress of why I needed the MRI in the first place, I almost didn't make it through the procedure. It took several minutes of breathing and internal self-talk and a lot of tissues to bring my body back to just a calm enough state to get into the machine. So you can understand maybe why just passing by the room in the corridor, my nervous system, however briefly, went into a stress response, straight into survival mode. That very place represented a threat to my body, and my body certainly reacted to the painful situation with a full-on stress response, even a full 2 years later. Thankfully, the response was short-lived. And thankfully, I was able to figure out why it was happening fairly quickly and pause and reconnect to my body and do some deep breathing and some tapping. Walk outside and in an effort to try and process it and release it through my body. Our bodies are rather fascinating like that, aren't they? They receive and process and hold on to and respond to all manner of experiences, stressful ones, traumatic ones, in sometimes complicated and confusing ways that are totally separate from our rational thinking mind. We can know in our mind that there's no threat in the corridor of the hospital, but our bodies do not behave accordingly. I'm sure many of you can recall some similar experiences in your own lives. And despite the rise in the scientific studies of this mind-body connection and advances in neuroscience that show how our bodies store and react to stress and trauma, our culture still leans heavily towards this separation of mind and body. And I would add spirit to that. The 17th century Western philosophy and the evolution of Western medicine is compartmentalized in treating only certain parts, I think has a little bit to do with this split. I blame Descartes. I think, therefore I am. But in actuality, and I think we all have experienced this and know this and have read about this, the whole mind, body, spirit system is all connected in one beautiful integrated network that makes up our incarnated self, the expression of divine flesh. Spiritual teachers and ancient religions have understood and practiced and championed this mind, body, spirit connection for eons. Western clinical medicine has been a little bit slower to come around. Recently, I reread Bessel van der Kolk's influential book, The Body Keeps the Score. How many of you have had an opportunity to read that book? It's great to see so many hands. It really inspired this service. It's beautiful, beautiful book. Shares the pioneering work, his own, along with many others in his field that he collaborated with on the body's relationship to psychological stress and trauma, showing how trauma literally reshapes the body, the brain, compromising our capacities for pleasure, engagement, self-control, for trust. And in sharing patient stories, he highlights how our bodies can hold on to that trauma years, decades later, sometimes shutting down or slowing down certain functions, sometimes in hyperreactivity and hypervigilance. And he also revealed how traditional psychiatric and psychological treatments, pharmaceuticals and talk therapy, are not singularly and particularly effective in addressing the roots of trauma and creating pathways to healing. For that, he noticed, body practices and body therapies had much more significant impact. In the book, he shared the story of Dr. Spencer Eth, a well-known psychiatrist in New York City, who was curious where trauma survivors turn to for help. And in 2002, Dr. Eth and a team of students conducted a survey of 225 people who had escaped the Twin Towers on 9/11. And those survivors were asked what had been most helpful in overcoming the effects of their experience. The majority of them named acupuncture, massage, yoga, and EMDR in that order of usefulness. And yet, at the time, none of those treatments were accepted yet as standard practice in clinical psychiatry. But while Dr. van der Kolk's work focuses on acute and chronic trauma, his discoveries and all of those therapeutic approaches that he talks about are powerful tools for all of us, regardless of what level of trauma we've experienced in our lives. And I know that many of us have utilized many of these therapies for our own well-being, for stress reduction, for general mental health, in therapy, and still, I at least notice for myself, we don't always pay attention to the messages that our bodies are sending us on a regular basis, nor do we really use our bodies as a tool on a regular basis to recalibrate, regulate our nervous systems, particularly when our stress responses are activated. Because trauma happens to all of us. Some folks have dealt with chronic trauma far more than anyone should ever have to. But many therapists I know, including my own, like to say there is big T trauma and little t trauma. And comparing or dismissing your own trauma based on another's trauma experience isn't really helpful. Our bodies still receive it and react to it regardless of what level it is at. And let's not forget the trauma of the pandemic, especially in those early months of lockdown when we knew very little, weighing every single decision, our threat response system on high alert for such an extended period of time, and it isn't totally over. So that trauma is still very active for some. Deb Dana, a clinical social worker and author of, a scholar and author of polyvagal theory, describes trauma in this beautiful way. She describes trauma as a chronic disruption of connectedness. A chronic disruption of connectedness, which feels like a pretty good description of our world right now. We are in a chronic state of disconnection, are we not? And this disruption of connectedness has only gotten worse, it seems, it feels. And if that's the definition of trauma, then I certainly have experienced a lot more of it than I'd care to admit over the years, and the pandemic only made it worse. And I know that my own body has felt totally overwhelmed and overloaded by it at times. So just notice how that feels in your own body right now. Just notice. If you need to tap it out, that's okay. And I think particularly in this moment in time in our culture, in our state, about our trans and non-binary and gender expansive community, and that chronic disruption of disconnectedness that could run all the way from their family structures, their religious communities, all the way through a state government that is trying to legislate them out of existence. That's a chronic state. Chronic disruption of connectedness. And so imagine what that does to one's nervous system. Because our nervous systems are wired for survival. Deb Dana calls the autonomic nervous system our internal surveillance system. And this internal system is constantly scanning our environment for signals of threat. And when we perceive a threat, this system activates our fight, flight, and freeze responses. And those responses begin in our bodies, in our gut, and in our heart center. So imagine if we are activated by that chronic disruption of connectedness every single day, what's happening in our nervous system as it's activating, or staying in that heightened active state all the time. But Deb Dana also reminds people that our autonomic nervous systems are a platform for our lived experience and the place where our stories begin. And they are a beautiful biological resource to us. When we experience stress or threat or trauma, that chronic disruption of connection in our bodies, our brains create a story about that, as a way to make sense of all of those signals it's receiving from the body. And then that story lives in us. It lives in our bodies. That story of mine when I was walking past the MRI room in the hospital and my body was experiencing all of those physiological states of high alert, reliving the story of that experience and how painful it was, how alone I felt, how ashamed I felt at my reaction, even though I could not control it, how scary the whole experience was because the outcome would determine the next steps. And in that moment in the hallway, I could have ignored what I was experiencing. A younger Sarah might have done just that, pushed through, tamped down those intense feelings, or I might have just fled into my car and numbed out. But Sarah today knows I have to be present to my body's experience, to allow it and process it with all of those embodied tools at our disposal, like movement and breathing and tapping. Because that's how I stay open and receptive, how all of us can stay open and receptive and avoid total shutdown or hyper-reactivity. But the coolest thing about this work that I have read of late is that our autonomic nervous systems, while wired for threat, are also wired for connection. we're not just scanning for threat. We are also scanning for connection. Those cues that tell us our nervous systems and our bodies are safe and secure, warm voices, loving eye contact, smiles, a hand. And in tuning into the wisdom of our bodies, to the fullness of our sensed experience and the emotions that go with it, we find pathways to healing and resilience. Resistance also happens in those pathways, but that's what we're trying to avoid. We're really trying to welcome healing and resilience. And that is where, in the wisdom of our bodies, we find connection with our true essence. We all need healing. We all need resilience, especially in these times of chronic disruption of connectedness. And our bodies can be an important partner in our physical, mental, spiritual well-being in that ongoing journey toward greater self-discovery and spiritual flourishing. Emily Nagoski, one of the authors of Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, writes, most of us have spent our whole lives being taught everyone else's opinions about our bodies, rather than to believe what our own bodies are trying to tell us. For some of us, it's been so long since we've listened to our bodies, we hardly know how to start understanding what they're trying to tell us, much less how to trust and believe what they are saying. And to make matters worse, the more exhausted we are, the noisier the signal is, and the harder it is to hear the message. This past weekend, as I mentioned to the young people, I attended an Enneagram workshop with several other boofers who joined me. It was a wonderful workshop. Now, if you know the Enneagram, I lead with type 3, which means that I am the achiever. I am the doer. I can do all the tasks, all the time, all day long. I can do them well, and I can do them more efficiently and faster than most anybody else except other 3s. But what happens when I allow myself to get stuck or lost in those default habits of my personality type, what happens to all of us when we allow our personality to take hold of us and run the show, is that we forget ourselves. We forget our true essence. And we shut down that receptivity and become disconnected from people, from ourselves, from the holy. The same is true when we're dysregulated or in stress, which is usually when that personality type is running the show. When our bodies shift into survival mode, we become more disconnected from self, from others, from the divine. We're disconnected from our own incarnation, that divine spark that lives inside each of us. And so only when we are in true receptivity can we really connect with that essence, with the holy, with the spirit, with divine love. And in that place of receptivity also is the place of greatest connection with others. It's that heart connection, my heart connecting with your heart, rather than leading with our thoughts and our mind and our protective armor. And so how do you think we get back into receptivity and true essence? We whoosh it out through the body, all of those body practices, taking even the simple practice of taking some extended breaths, 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, or box breathing, or when you're meditating, trying to allow yourself to feel your body drop in to your center, to your core. There is a physiological feeling there. Or tapping, or whoosh breathing, or yoga. And we cannot get to that receptivity and true essence by thinking alone. We cannot think ourselves into our true essence. All of those embodied self-regulating anchoring practices help us just reconnect with everything, with ourselves and with the divine. The best quote from Bessel van der Kolk's book is this: Once you start approaching your body with curiosity rather than with fear, everything shifts. All it takes is curiosity, not perfection, just curiosity. Our bodies are such great wisdom keepers, but we have to invite ourselves to tune in and listen. And when we can do that with a good toolkit of practices, our bodies help us stay connected to all that is. Because that is really the journey of our soul, the great spiritual quest, to deepen our capacity to give and receive love, to uncover, connect with, and allow the beauty and radiance of our soul, our true essence, to shine forth. And our bodies can show us the way. May it be so. Amen. In the spirit of tuning in and allowing our bodies to show us the way, I want to invite you into this time of prayer and meditation with a brief body meditation, very simple one. This is one that one of my colleagues taught to us at one of our gatherings, and I found it so deeply profound and moving. So I'll invite you to just be comfortable as you can in your body, in your chair, wherever you are. Notice your body as it connects with the chair, the couch, wherever you're sitting. Notice where your clothing meets your skin. And invite yourself to just take a couple of deep breaths. Slow exhales. And then I invite you to place one hand on your heart, whichever hand is most comfortable, and the other hand holding your face, your cheek, holding it like maybe a beloved grandparent would hold, or the way we cradle an infant's face. Hold your own self. And try not to curl up, try to keep your heart open and just be here with yourself. Holding yourself. Notice what arises for you. And know that whatever arises in you, in your body, is good. And then in this space of connecting and holding yourself, offer yourself some love, some compassion, whatever messages you most need to hear and feel right now. Whenever you are ready, I invite you to just release yourself, staying with that beautiful feeling of being connected to your true essence. Our closing song is a video today, a beautiful song that was written by Carrie Bastian and Mike Lemieux. And you're invited to receive it, but I'll also invite you to sing along. The words will appear on the screen. You'll get a hang of the chorus as you go, and just allow yourself to sing to yourself these words of healing. Let the healing begin.
I've been broken, I've been blessed. Life's so beautiful, but sometimes it's a mess. Within the chaos, there's a calm. There's peace in the eye of the storm. Even after the darkest night, the sun will rise with each new morn. Open the windows and break down the walls. Let the light shine in. Find the wholeness that was there all along, and let the healing begin. You've been weary, time to rest. Times have been the worst, they've also been the best. Hidden in the heart, there's a fire, a young within the yin. Let love light the path ahead. Lift up the lamp that shines within. Open the windows and break down the walls. Let the light shine in. Find the wholeness that was there all along, and let the healing begin. There is a balm in Gilead to make the broken whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the wounded soul. We've been so lost, may we be found still walking on up to higher ground. Deep in the struggle there is joy. The obstacle is the way. Let justice be our guiding star until we reach a brighter day. Open the windows and break down the walls. Let the light shine in. Find the wholeness that was there all along, and let the healing begin. Open the windows and break down the walls. Let the light shine in. Find the wholeness that was there all along, and let the healing begin.
Beautiful song. Friends, I invite you to rise as you are able. And Patricia, would you join me up here for a moment? I know that connection with others is sometimes a little scary, but I am going to invite us on this day to have a closing blessing connecting with the people in our row. So if you're solo in a row, scoot yourself over so you got a few folks next to you. And I'll ask you to place your right hand on your heart and your left hand on the shoulder of the person next to you. And if you don't have someone next to you, you can just lift that hand up to the energy of the room. Friends, your body is a magnificent gift. Tune in to its wisdom. Let it be your guide to healing, to receptivity, to love, to your true essence. You are whole and holy, a beautiful reflection of radiant, divine love, just as you are. Let your light shine in. Go in peace.